Welcome to this online presentation, International Business and Business Language in Cross-Disciplinary Collaboration, the Real Client Service Learning Project.
This presentation was made for business language teachers who want to engage their students in a professional project for a real client. It's based on a project we did with students in our Business German and International Marketing courses.
We have two main goals. First, to give an introduction to real client service learning projects. And second, to provide teachers with basic guidelines to set up such a project for their own class.
First, we'd like to introduce ourselves. We are the Business Language Program Coordinators of the GW CIBER, or the Center for International Business Education and Research at the George Washington University. I'm Margaret Gonglewski, and I'm a professor in the German Language and Literature program in the Columbian College of Arts and Sciences at GW.
And I'm Anna Helm, faculty member in the International Business Department in the School of Business at GW. As a team, we aim to help business language faculty be better empowered and knowledgeable in business content, frameworks, and teaching approaches.
Our earlier work has focused on case methodology, development of business cases and teaching materials, and green business. Here's what we'll cover in this online course. First, key concepts to ground the kind of project we're describing here within the rubric of active experiential learning that fully supports the notion of a liberal arts education.
We'll describe a recent real client project that we did together, combining the forces of our separate business German and international marketing courses. Finally, we'll give guidelines to help those who want to set up such a project on their own.
The three most important concepts we're dealing with here are real client projects and service learning. Common to both is the idea of experiential learning, or learning by doing.
Equally important for us was that our project is an example of a successful cross-disciplinary venture, proving that it is possible to link students from two different academic backgrounds and foster peer learning when focused on a common goal for a client.
According to Hagen, real client projects give students the opportunity to apply their knowledge by producing actual deliverables, while also encouraging teamwork and networking.
Such projects have long been a part of cutting-edge MBA programs, but in the undergraduate realm they are still less common. A far more common example of experiential learning at the undergraduate level is the internship.
When students have the chance to work with real clients, they get hands-on experience with people other than their teacher.
And the opportunity to engage with the real world.
They can apply their knowledge that they've gained from their course.
The entire experience offers students a way to connect their current academic learning to their future professional lives.
In a similar way, service learning is focused on connecting students' learning to a concrete purpose in the real world. Specifically, it's a teaching and learning strategy that integrates meaningful community service with instruction and reflection to enrich the learning experience, teach civic responsibility, and strengthen communities.
Service learning aspects include cross-fertilization of theory and practice,
a connection to the local community,
application of skills, so active learning,
personal, professional, and disciplinary learning.
Last but not least, reflection, both written and oral.
It's clear that the learning potential from having students work on a project with a real client as service learning is enormous. But what's more powerful is that our project adds the cross-disciplinary perspective. This enriches students' experience and allows them to contribute and apply their knowledge from their own field of study and learn from each other.
The Triple Whammy project prepares them for work in their future careers, for collaborating in diverse teams, whose members contribute differently to the end product.
What are the cross-disciplinary contributions that students bring from their own field? The business language students bring, first and foremost, their language proficiency, but also deep insights about the culture. Most of them have prior interaction with the culture, and so that allows them to bring comparative cross-cultural perspectives into the game. Finally, they're bringing complementary disciplinary knowledge.
The international business students, on the other hand, bring a lot of disciplinary knowledge in international marketing specifically. They also have familiarity with analytical tools in international business. Many of them come in with experience in consulting, and they also tend to have prior exposure to professional corporate settings.
The project that we'd like to describe for you is an example of what can be done as a cross-disciplinary venture. The first step was to find a client or community partner. We found that partner here in Washington, D.C. in the German Language Society. The GLS is a nonprofit organization that aims to promote the culture of German-speaking Europe. Their central activity is to organize presentations in German by experts from a variety of areas such as politics, art, travel, science, literature, etc.
For the project, we brought together teams formed with students from both classes, Business German and International Marketing. It was critical that each team had representation from both disciplines in order to benefit from each other's skills and knowledge. Since the two classes met separately, teams had to meet and work independently outside of class time.
The mission of the teams was to revamp the GLS web presence and social media strategy. The upshot was the GLS had an antiquated approach to getting the word out about their events, mostly through paper flyers and sometimes through emails. What they wanted to do was establish a web presence and appropriate social media activities.
We opted to use a competitive design for the project. That is, teams were deployed to do the same project, and the client would then select the most compelling and actionable proposal.
In an ideal world, we'd have the students present their own project outcomes now, but we can at least give you an overview of their proposals. You'll see that there are multiple recommendations from each team, depending on the research that they did, the backgrounds that they had, and the knowledge that they brought together in the project. This team recommended the creation of a GLS website and even mocked one up for them that could be created and updated by their proposed social media intern.
This team approached the project the way they would in a typical business class, by using frameworks. Here we see an example of a SWOT analysis. Interesting is also that they phased their recommendations, Phase 1 and Phase 2, which is also very common for a typical business school consulting project.
This team chose to develop a tripartite marketing strategy for the client, using technology, education, and cooperation, building on each other to address their needs. Here you see a shot of the Facebook page that the team designed for them.
These photos show the students in action at their final presentation. They were very engaged and the client was present, giving feedback and asking questions of each team.
Now that you've seen an example of a cross-disciplinary, real client service learning project, it's time to guide you through setting one up for your own students.
We've organized the guidelines into 5 steps that you can see here. Identify client partner, set up teams, support teamwork, assess outcomes, and require reflection.
For each step, we provide you with goals to follow in order to be successful. We also provide components, which include concrete items that you'll need in order to fulfill the goals, such as documents, meeting recommendations, etc.
The first step is to identify a client or partner, and the specific goals are to find an organization company with a need, to look for a language, culture, and a business nexus, ensure mutual learning experience for both client and students.
The components that you will need are first and foremost a project description outlining the problem or need and the necessary background information. You'll also want to set up an initial meeting with the client. The second step is to set up the teams. Goals here include dividing the students into teams and, in doing so, finding the right mix of both disciplines per team.
The components here are, first of all, the team charter, which is a contract between team members that outlines how often they'll meet, who has what roles. It is also imperative to set realistic and interim deadlines for the students, so that not everything is due at the same time. The third step is to support the team throughout the whole project. The goal here is to empower teams with independence and responsibility.
The components include a scope of work, which is a description of the proposed work the team will undertake, which must be communicated to and approved by the client before they proceed with the project. Other components include independent research, which is ongoing. Other ongoing components include communication with the client, as well as feedback from the faculty. The project culminates in a proposal write-up and preparation for the presentation. The fourth step is to assess outcomes. The major goal here is to evaluate each team's work and cross-disciplinary effectiveness.
The components here are an evaluation of both the presentation and written proposal. We have found that a rubric is useful for these kinds of complex, multifaceted evaluations. The fifth step is to require reflection. The goal here is to encourage reflection from a variety of angles.
The key components that you'll need in order to reach that goal are good prompts to encourage deep reflection on the experience. You can also consider conducting additional course surveys and even organize focus groups to really get to the heart of their experience.
Out of this cross-disciplinary real client service learning project, important benefits crystallized. Clearly, this was a unique and very challenging experience for the students.
We also saw that there was a high level of satisfaction with the deliverables, certainly on the part of the clients, but also on the part of the students themselves.
Students also came to realize the value of the differences in disciplinary approaches that they took in the project.
Many students were able to capitalize on the creative aspects of the project.
Last but not least, it was wonderful to see how this project boosted students' self-confidence and their belief in their own ability to tackle this real client project.
On the flip side, we did note some challenges. First and foremost, successful teamwork is often tricky for students to manage, and in this project there was the added complicating factor of varying disciplinary expectations.
At times, it was also difficult for us as instructors to balance the most productive mix of allowing for independence while still guiding them in the process.
Unfortunately, because we were in an English-speaking context, there was a limited opportunity for business language students to put their language skills to use in the project.
Overall, students carried themselves very well professionally, but at times they had trouble finding their footing in the client interaction, knowing when it was appropriate to ask questions, probing the client, thinking critically about the information they received.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to our online presentation. This project was funded by a Business Language Research and Teaching grant provided by a consortium of Cybers.
Funding for all Cybers is provided by the U.S. Department of Education through the Title VI grant program to increase and promote the nation's capacity for international understanding and economic enterprise.